Flame Monroe. I love Flame Monroe as a person. I can't honestly say that I've actually sat down and watched any of their stand up specials. But Flame Monroe to me is the epitome of being twin spirited. And I have so much reverence for queer individuals, especially twin spirited individuals, because to harness both of those energies as effortlessly as Flame Monroe does is a true art form and it's a beauty for me to watch. You know what? I take that back. I did see their special on Ooh She Ready by Tiffany Haddish. Flame Monroe did do a good job. I'm gonna rewatch it though, because I probably was just mesmerized again. Every time I see Flame Monroe, I'm always mesmerized. So stats. They're from Chicago, Illinois. Their sign is a Cancer. Didn't I say Nina Simone stats? It's okay. We'll move on. Flame Monroe is most known as a comedian and most hated for being confused, being fluid, truly twin spirit. Okay, for me, in this new chapter of my life, I really want to experience people as they are and not as I want them to show up, right? There's so much freedom in just taking in somebody as they are without any expectations, without expecting them to shift or morph into some more desirable form for your palate so it's more palatable for you and so that you can stomach it. I think it's so much beauty in just standing in it and being able to experience something that you might have never thought that you would have the opportunity to experience or never thought that this was going to be an experience that you had. And that's Flame Monroe for me. And they don't shy away from who they are, which I also think is super beautiful. And this is no shade to queer people, queer individuals that have to live a more stealthy life because there is some danger associated with being different and with embodying those differences and standing fully in your truth because there is so much fear around change and around other, right? Because you can't easily label other, you can't easily identify others. So that means it must be dangerous because we haven't figured out what it is yet instead of just accepting what it is or that it is and that it exists and that you don't have to have a name or a label for it or it doesn't have to make sense for you, make sense to you for it to be okay to exist. So Flame Monroe has even gotten backlash from people within the queer community because they feel like they may be sending out, the wrong message that everybody is flip floppy or back and forth in terms of like um, their gender expression or gender identity. Um, and Flame understands that it is a unique experience to them, but they're just saying from their point of view that whatever somebody wants to call them, as long as it's in love, then they don't mind. You know, they understand that, especially being older, that there's people are just not as receptive to change. They're not receptive to, especially older people are not receptive to things that are queer, things that are androgynous, things that are ambiguous or too flippy floppy. They get uneasy. They feel like it's messy. They feel like it's of the devil. Um, and Flame has so much empathy and understanding when it comes to that, but also does not care, you know? And to me, I just feel like that's such a liberating space to be in because whereas it has infuriated other people like T.S. Madison, who feels like there are people who try to illegitimize her experience as a woman, as a trans woman, because of people like Flame Monroe who are just like, oh, you call me, you call me, she, you call me they, whatever, it's whatever I look like on that particular day. You know, it feels like for them is more so it doesn't matter how other people perceive me, it's not going to change how I perceive myself. Whereas I feel like for someone like T.S. Madison, she wants it to be recognized. She recognizes herself as a woman, but she also wants people to respect and recognize her as a woman as well. Like in a real way. Like that's a sign of respect for her. And honestly, depending on the person, just honor that. That's another thing. I really love Flame Monroe in the sense that they have a particular way and a viewpoint in how they view their gender identity and gender journey. And but I also love the fact that T.S. Madison demands that she be identified as a woman, demands that people, and holds that as a signal of respect, and doesn't just blow it off like, oh, call me whatever. And I do think that it should be on a case by case basis. Don't assume that based on this one person's story that it's the same for every person that kind of fits the mold. Especially when it comes to queer people, every queer person has a very, very different experience. And I don't think there's no two queer experiences that are the same, honestly. There are just like too many combinations or too many variations of queerness that everybody got a little bit of something. Everybody's mixed up with something everywhere, mixed up. So I I'm rambling when it comes to Flame because with them, I think the main thing for me is being so open. What really shocked me is the Breakfast Club interview. I do not like Charlemagne with a burning passion. I think that he's a jackass. I really do. I know that he's going through his own healing journey and he comes to terms with some of the things that he said in the past. Um, and can come off as remorseful for some of the things that he says. I still think he's a jackass. But Flame Monroe went on the show and was very graceful in sharing their queer experience and you know what it's like and trying to break it down to the straight mind in a way that made them feel included. How that's the way that I viewed the interview is that they were really trying to like make it accessible to these straight folks instead of making it like this ominous, super convoluted thing. Flamerose was like, this is the simplest way for you to understand it um, based on my experience exclusively. And I just appreciate how they just take the time to be open and honest about their experience without pulling any punches or beating around the bush or even being offended. because a lot of straight people will get tensed up around queer folk or feel like, oh, I can't even have this conversation because they always got an attitude. They're always so defensive, blah, blah, blah. And that may be the case, but it's because I say dumb shit. But Flame Monroe, she's sweet. Okay. They're gonna be patient with you, walk you through it, you know, make you understand it, not be offended by the ignorant things that you might say in the process of them explaining their queer experience. I love their grace. I really do. I love their grace. I love their embodiment. I also love how nurturing they are. I just find it so loving. I love when queer black men have children for some reason. I think that's the sweetest thing for black men to nurture children because I just feel like again it's the best of both worlds. They really are caring, gentle giants, that just are so filled with love. You know what I mean? And I know that people get weird because the way that straight people think about queerness is so perverse. I'm speaking of it as an energy where you're probably thinking of it as just like this sexual thing and oh they're gonna get around anything with the penis and wanna no, it's not it's not how queerness works. That's a sickness. That's pedophilia. Anybody can be a pedophile. Straight people are pedophiles. Like stop, equating pedophilia to queerness. Stop doing that. That's disrespectful. Okay. Be better judges of character, please. Stop with this archaic way of thinking when it comes to things like this. I'm not as graceful as a flame, okay? But we're moving on.